Good morning, 641, News Talk 99.7, WNTK, WNTK.com, News Talk 98.9, and 1490 WUVR, John Harper, Jim MacKay, and the guest we have on once every 4 years. It's Jim Bohannon from the Dial Global Radio Networks. Good morning, Jim. You're our official leap year guest.
Why, thank you very much there, John. Jim, good to be with you here. And actually, it works out very well for me because it turns out that, in fact, I'm only 17.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Someone actually pointed out on our Facebook page today that you would never, if you were born today on February 29th, technically, if you celebrate your birthday every 4 years, you'll never reach your 40th birthday. So I guess you could take the good with the bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, really. I mean, after all, it would take a miracle for you to reach your 40th birthday. I mean, you got all kinds of 52-year-old Jewish kids out there getting their bar mitzvahs. I mean, it's a good deal.
And this is exactly how the numbers are crunched when they do spin on polls. You see, it's nothing more scientific than what we've just demonstrated. We want to say congratulations to Jim. He is among the winners of the Radio and Television News Directors Association First Amendment Award. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It was quite an honor, particularly because, quite frankly, this is a TV award for the most part. The Brian Williamses and Diane Sawyers of the world tend to get this, and for a radio guy to get it, not common. So I was pretty honored.
Well, and you should be, because you do a radio program that offers as not only intelligent discussion, but solutions to problems. You know, very often, as Jim and I were just talking, we step back. Politicians do this. We all kind of fall into the trap where it's easier to point a finger than it is to come up with a solution and have some intelligent discussion about the problem.
Yeah, it is, and of course these days you got to worry about which finger. The fact is that our discourse has become less and less civil in this country, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, you only have to worry about the finger if you're on the Super Bowl or on some nationally worldwide. That's it. You know, we were talking about not only the Michigan primary and the Arizona primary last night, but some of the outrageous things that are being said by all of the candidates out there. There is no fact check going on. What is happening to our electoral process? It seems to be coming off the rails.
Oh, it's simply reflecting the tools that are available and the ones that work. And the fact is that quick sound bites persuade people, that negative advertising does work. And I would add something in regard to the negative ads, and that is that if, in fact, what you have to say about your opponent is germane to the campaign, and you genuinely believe that your opponent is advocating or has passed something which is bad for the country, you have an obligation, really, to point it out. But this is simply a sign of the times, and in fact, if Twitter and Facebook and 24-hour news cycles had all been available to John Adams and Tom Jefferson, they'd have been just as nasty in the 1800 race.
I suppose so. As we speak with Jim Bohannon here on WNTK and WUVR, we want to hold on to the past, at least when it's convenient. And you and I have been through a few of these election cycles, and just listening to the radio last night as they broke down the evangelical vote, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. You know, in 1960 and 64, 76, pick an election year. People went to church. People had the same beliefs and internal systems in terms of, their morals. Why do we slice and dice like this?
Well, we slice and dice, first of all, because polling techniques are sophisticated enough that we can. And second, when you actually have continuous coverage about something which can be summarized as Romney won Arizona and Michigan, would that take me a second and a half to say that, then you've got to have something else to talk about. And this is a godsend for continuous coverage anchors who've got to go 3, 4, 5 hours and keep the needle bouncing. This is wonderful to break it down by left-handed Lithuanian Lutherans. I mean, you are in hog heaven if you can do that.
I suppose so, and that is the double-edged sword that brings us to this conversation, right?
Oh, well, totally, yeah. I mean, the fact is that we are very into navel-gazing when it comes to our election process.
Yeah, and very often what we see down there is Lent. Yeah, it's Lent, and I was going to say something else, but we'll just move past the Lent here as we talk to Jim Bohannon from the Dial Global Radio Networks here this morning on WNTK and WUVR. Indulge me, please, for 30 seconds. Here is something that you will perhaps never hear again in the number of years that you've been on the air. I won't give the number. This happened on the broadcast on Friday night. Jim's guest in studio is Pat Buchanan. Now, listen to this.
Of course, a lot of speculation immediately came up after the MSNBC thing that you would wind up being hired by Fox.
Right.
Any talk about that?
There's been talk about that, but there's been I haven't talked to. Let me put it this way: I haven't talked to anyone about. You're sort of liberated here and free, and so I've been on an awful lot of stations and channels and things like that, and I'm taking a look at current TV over there with Keith.
I have never heard you stopped like that, Mr. Bohannon.
I was trying to process that. He was so serious, didn't crack a smile, and it took me a second. A warning, danger to Will Robinson. He's putting you on.
That was great. I was listening to that. I'm saying, I've listened to Jim Bohannon for literally as long as you've been on the radio, and it's like, I never heard Jim Bohannon stopped like that.
It took me a second to process that. Yeah, current TV, that'd be a winner. Keith Olbermann and Pat
Buchanan. Can you imagine that? I would actually
pay-per-view with the full contact wrestling.
I would pay money to actually watch that. That would be pretty good. What is it? Not having had the opportunity to hear the entire interview with Pat Buchanan, someone who obviously ran for president in previous elections. What's his take on what's going on?
Pat really sees the Republican Party is desperately searching, and that they're not really happy with the people they've got running, which, by the way, in my view, is a sign that we have become pretty much spoiled children in the electorate. I think we had an excellent group of candidates this year, including the survivors and the ones who dropped out. We've had virtually every view represented, I think, quite well. Given how many people out there who can tell you who came in second on Dancing with the Stars but couldn't tell you who Mitt Romney or Rick Santorum are, I think that we have better candidates than we deserve. So he sees a lot of discontent, and I point to the fact that I know Republican scientists have been working on this, but they have been unable to revive Ronald Reagan. He's not going to run.
And Ronald Reagan could not get elected today.
I don't think he could. Just strip away the aura, the two-term president, and bringing down the evil empire and the overwhelming victory in '84. Just put him back where he was, and that is to say, a has-been actor who raised taxes while governor of California. He'd have a heck of a time winning. He really would.
And it brings us back to our point of intelligent people doing otherwise silly things. Yes, this is an intelligent crop of Republican candidates from the early days of John Huntsman and also Tim Pawlenty up to the people that we see in there today. And that's why it is so disappointing to see otherwise smart people do such stupid things and say such silly things.
Well, but we get paid so well to say them, I mean,
maybe you do. Free speech at this end means that we speak for free.
Speak for free. I understand how that is. Well, I just frankly see that I think we're a little too picky, really, and we're demanding a little too much in terms of purity. The candidates must agree with me on every issue. They must never make a misstatement, and that is ridiculous. And don't forget one other thing too, and that is this: that the fact is that when you are president, you rarely ever have to act like you're a contestant on Jeopardy, okay? Rick Perry couldn't think of the three cabinet members he was going to dismiss from his administration. Trust me, if he became president, I'm sure that President Perry would have an aide who would remind him which three departments he planned on canceling. And even if you do have to make quick decisions, you're always surrounded by the National Security Council chief and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And so while the debates are instructive, when we sit here and play gotcha with these candidates, I mean, they're only human.
Yeah, exactly. Not a big fan of Sarah Palin, but boy, she nailed it early on when she said, those gotcha questions. She's right.
Yeah, it is true. And people, unfortunately, people in our line of work make reputations off of gotcha questions. Although I think that, frankly, if you look closer, you discover that while we do make reputations, it may not always be the reputation we would like to have.
Correct. Yeah, we just we prefer, at least on this radio program, just to have conversations and get information out there and learn who the human being is behind what they're saying, and you make the decisions. One of the great people on this planet and in this business is Jim Bohannon, who has just won the RTNDA First Amendment Award among some very distinguished broadcasters getting that award. You can hear him tonight at 10 o'clock and, of course, at 5 in the morning with America This Morning here on WNTK and WUVR. Jim, it is always a pleasure, and we thank you for the generosity of your time on WNTK.
Hey, John, Jim, it's my pleasure and my honor. You guys have a great station.
Thank you very much, Jim. Take care.
Take care now.